Welcome to Lawless Podcast with Justin and Clayton. As always, I'm Clayton. This is my best bud, Justin, and we're here to bring the world and the news and our views to you. This
Straight
is a
to you,
little
bud.
treat.
Yes, straight to you. You kind of sound like Bruce Buffer a little bit.
Bruce
Every
Buffer,
yeah,
it's
every
time.
every time you hit it, you just nail it every time.
He's getting old, isn't he? Well, I guess he's kind of getting up there.
I mean, he's always seemed old. But have you ever heard? I don't remember the amount, so I'm not even going to act like I know. But have you heard the amount of money he gets paid for every introduction or every fight night?
No, but it's got to be good, I'd
It's
assume.
obscene.
Is it
Again, I don't remember what it was, but it's absolutely obscene.
millions of dollars every time?
Yeah,
Millions.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I could probably check, or I could just I could ask chat. But yeah, it's insane how much money he makes from doing those. Did you watch the fights last night?
No, I didn't. I was busy hanging out with my neighbors.
Oh, you were doing.
Hammer time.
Yeah, you were, dude. I laughed at that video on TikTok. I laughed at it on Facebook. I laughed at it on. I think Ashley posted it as a short. I loved it on three separate occasions.
I
And each
appreciate
time it
that.
was from my heart. Yeah, that was great. What was happening in that video?
It was my neighbor Sima. She was having a birthday party for her oldest son, Alex. He just turned 18
Is this the neighbor with Fat Crap Roscoe?
with Fat Crap Roscoe. Fat
Okay.
Crap Roscoe was there.
Okay.
Um, she was having a birthday party for him. Well, her boyfriend Bubba is also a DJ. He owns a transportation company. He drives a truck
Okay.
and does contract stuff for that. He also has a DJ company, so he set up his speakers and his the scene there. Well, we left because I had some yard work that I had been putting off, and Ashley was like, "We have to do it right now before the sun goes down." So we skedaddled for like 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes, and got this yard work done. Well, I took a quick shower and got back to the party. Well, the party had died down, but the music was still playing. Bubba was outside, just on his cell phone, and Hammer Time was on, and and the door was open. He was on the back patio, and so right when it was dun 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 dun, I was like, "Oh, perfect, Hammer Time!" So I
This
did the
party's just started.
yeah. So I did the Hammer Time across the door. I was like, "Hold up, hold up, hold up! I got to get that on my phone."
Was this like a neighborhood block party or something, or just friends?
Just friends, a house party.
Okay.
Yeah, what wasn't a block party. It was just a little birthday party for there. She's Hispanic and he's black, and this is real big, kind of, and a lot. I feel like us white toast people maybe missed out on this, or maybe it died in the past, but it's still very much alive in other cultures where even a birthday party for like a child or a teenager turns into a grown-up party,
Yeah.
and that's what this
Yeah.
was.
It's just a reason.
It's just a reason to party.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
do. I do think we kind of lose that in white culture.
Yeah.
We don't party like we should.
No, not at all.
I'm a little jealous of the other ethnicities parties.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago. Like, I maybe it died in the early 80s, late 70s with disco, but I saw videos of Vanilla Faces dancing in the clubs.
You know what it was? It's
What?
probably it's probably when they made the big push against cocaine.
Mm,
Because the whites used to really, from what I can see from the TV, the whites used to really get down on that cocaine.
they used to get down.
And
Joey
then,
Diaz talks about that. He said they don't make whites like they used to.
I mean, I
And
wasn't alive in that time, but again, just from watching movies and things, it seems like we used to know how to party better than we do now.
yeah, for sure. My dad, like yours, was a biker, but my dad was an outlaw criminal. Uh, and he had lots of stories of just like these ragers back in the day and all these good times. And I remember thinking, man, I want to bring that back because I don't see it nowadays. There needs to be a resurgence.
So yeah, bring back the nostalgia.
Yeah.
I like it.
of some boring boys that know how to have fun. Maybe
You
that's
know,
what we are. That's what Lawless is. We're
what's
going
that?
against the rules. We're breaking the rules, the stereotypes, and we are having fun.
Well, it'll take us in a little bit of a different direction, so maybe we can talk about it later. I had an interesting thought the other day that the the rules that we live by in society, has it ever occurred to you that they're just made up?
Oh yeah,
Like they're just made, like we agree to them, for the
sure.
most part we agree to them, but at the end of the day, the reason I was thinking about this was, obviously being self-employed, I don't have a typical schedule.
Right.
And I was kind of beating myself up the other day because I hadn't I hadn't really done a lot of tangible work that week. And on Friday I was playing golf with my son. So Thursday night, the night before, I was kind of beating myself up like, you haven't worked hard enough, and
Mm,
you haven't put enough hours in or whatever. And it just kind of hit me like, who says who
yeah,
says that you've got to work 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week or whatever it is, your job does. But outside of
sure.
that, it's all just made up rules. It's just stuff we do for no real reason.
Yeah. I think it goes back to the agricultural, uh, not Renaissance, but the age of agriculture, because it like for hundreds of thousands of years, theoretically, there's some uh, alternative historians, but even mainline historians will say, I think when I first started hearing this, it was like 50,000 years ago is when I first started hearing. I wasn't around, but I heard that the timeline was 50,000 years ago is when humans were like in this form. We had this sort of brain development and we had this sort of body and everything. And there's some people that say it goes back to maybe even hundreds of thousands of years ago, which I think we're a lot older than what mainstream science says. And even they keep on pushing that timeline back. But for the vast majority of Homo sapiens time on this planet, we've been hunter-gatherers. We've lived in tribes. We were, it was sustenance. It was real big on the family units, real big on primitive mythologies, which I've been getting into a lot. Um, for the vast majority of our time, there was no schedule. There was no work. There was definitely not a 9 to 5. There wasn't even bending the earth to your will, which came at the age of agriculture. It was find what you can, hunt what you can, and try to live in peace. Try to have a good life. Make some babies, worship the stars, listen to the big chief man, and that's that. Well, I guess either 10 or 12,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent around Iraq, um, is when humans, they think, first started to transition from hunter-gatherers to agriculturalists and domesticators of wildlife. And so that's whenever we started, you know, it is real big. We went from Dr. Chris Ryan wrote a book on this. I wrote a couple books on it, but is when we went from hunter-gatherers to and worshiping the stars, no schedule, to a very strict schedule. And it's when we went from emphasis on the tribe to emphasis on bigger towns and communities, and to eventually evolved into cities.
Mm-hmm.
And um, even still, like it doesn't matter who, even if it's mainline academia or these alternative historians, the vast majority of our DNA is not on a 9 to 5 schedule. It's not even on going out and working your bones to death.
Mm-hmm.
It's on living.
Yeah.
That's our DNA, is to just live.
Well, that's kind of what I settled on, was that I'm tired of the grind,
Yeah.
and there's no end to it. Especially self-employed, having your own thing. There's no end. You just work and work and work and grind and grind and grind. And I don't want to do that. Like
No.
I want to earn enough money to provide a living, a comfortable living, provide some stability. But outside of that, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to work a certain number of hours or uh, take down a specific number of deals or anything like that. I'm kind of over that.
But yeah, Civilized to Death was his book that I really liked it a lot. His first book was Sex at Dawn, Dr. Chris Ryan. He was on Joe Rogan. That's how I heard about him, like 10 or so years ago, maybe 15 years ago now. But his first book, Sex at Dawn, was a real controversial book. Controversial to the Puritan stick up the butt folks like me and you, because it was about prehistoric man and about specifically our reproduction habits and how the words are escaping me, but how since the age of agriculture, humans have been one man, one wife. What is that? It's not poly, it's the
Monogamous.
monogamous. We've been in monogamous relationships since the age of agriculture. Oh, Dr. Vincent's about to come on. And since that time, since the age of agriculture, we've transitioned to monogamous relationships. But for what he was saying in his research and how he, I think this was his thesis for his doctoral, whatever, how he got his doctorship is it's in our DNA and it's in our code to actually be polyamorous, like wives or
Yeah.
women. It wasn't good enough to just have one donor to reproduce, and it was like there was different rituals, and there's evidence of this in all the different cultures, but it's where we get the idea of it takes a village to raise a child, because the child did used to belong to the village. Like there's no telling whose father it is. You might have a father like in the sense of a chief or a leader of the
Hmm.
house, but it could be your uncles, it could be your brothers, everyone was your family.
Yeah.
And that's what really led to it.
Hmm. I mean, you look at the Old Testament, and the Old
Which
Testament
is
is
the true book.
the Old Testament is full of um, uh, polygamous relationships. I think I'm not totally sure about this, but I think
Polyamorous.
did God even command Abraham to take more than one wife?
Oh, maybe. I'm not for
I
sure on
don't
that, but
I don't
we
remember.
know David had plenty of wives, and so did Solomon.
Solomon, yeah. I always thought that was strange. Like
Hmm.
I always wondered how. Like I get from a societal perspective that monogamy is probably best for society. It's probably best for order. It's probably best for civilization. But I always wondered how you lined that up with saying that it's sin if God commanded it in the Old Testament.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Bradley.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm trying to get set up here, but hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Welcome. Welcome to Lawless Podcast.
Yes.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here.
Nice to meet you.
Dr. Bradley, this you might not have any expertise on this, but we were just chopping it up for a little bit and talking about pre-agricultural humans. And what brought it up was Justin, my buddy here. We both used to be former cops together in Wichita,
Okay.
but he's a realtor now, and he was talking about how at the end of his week he was feeling like he didn't do enough. He was like, "Oh man, I didn't do enough, you know, substantial things. Like he felt like he wasn't worthy enough at the
Uh-huh.
end, like he didn't do enough." And he's wrestling with that idea, and was like, "You know what? Who says? Maybe I did do enough." It's all about quality of life versus quantity. Like
That is true. That is
that's
true.
true. Well, hey, I met you at a book signing about a month ago in
Yes.
January, January here, and I bought your book Against All Odds, and as soon as I got it, I read it one time, but I read it again here recently just to brush up on it. But I told my buddy Justin and his brother Travis, we're in a friend group, text message. I'm like, you guys have to read this. I just met this author. It's pretty good. And instead of me trying to mutilate your story, do us a favor and introduce yourself and maybe go into your story and we'll have questions along the way.
Okay. Well, I'm Dr. Vinson Bradley, but I hadn't always been Dr. Vinson Bradley. I basically was that teenage parent. Had my oldest daughter before the start of my senior year, and then while off in college, my girlfriend at the time, who later became my wife, um, found out she was pregnant with twins, and at that point, that's three, and I was barely 20. And so I ended up dropping out of college, coming home, getting a job at a local plant.
Because you had to.
I had to, and things just really, everything looked dim at that time. You're nervous. You're not knowing what to do. You don't have any sense of direction. You got three daughters here. You don't know how you're gonna pay the bills and all of those different things. And the last thing. What most people was telling me was that the thought of going back to school and odds just wasn't for me,
Right.
and so at that time I'm just trying to work, and and it was a few years later, when I was at my older brother's graduation. Actually, he finished his doctorate at Auburn, and I'm at his graduation, and I'm probably the proudest little brother in the building. But at the same time, I started asking myself questions. Why aren't you trying to do more, to change your situation? No. And even though I had a family to take care of, I came back determined. But at that time, I was working in corrections, and I was working, and I just so happened to be in transportation. And I was on straight day shift, but you had rotating shifts. And I had went in and met with my with the sergeant, hey, am I going to be on days for a while, because I'm thinking about going back to school. He supported it,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to the local community college and got registered for, evening classes. I went and gave him my schedule, and this was on like a Tuesday, but Friday of that same week, he called me in, and said, hey, start Monday, you'll be back on swing shift. Matter of
Oh
fact,
man.
not just on swing shift, on second shift.
Hmm.
At that, so which is going to be a direct conflict with me taking evening classes. So I
Yeah.
I went and I got a job working at a concrete light pole, building concrete light poles. It was a hard job, but it was a job that worked good with my school schedule. And as I'm going, and I'm working from 5 to 1:30. Went to school 4 nights a week, and right before I graduated, my first cousin, I had helped him get a job over there. And I get out of class one night, and they tell me I need to get out to the plant. Something happened. I get out there, and they have everything roped off. Well, one of those concrete light poles, the scraps broke,
Mm.
and he was in the wrong place.
Hmm.
And so my book, that's a short synopsis of a lot of the different things that I went through to try to get my education. It's like every time I took 2 steps forward, I would take 3 steps back, but I just kept going, and I was like, what's the alternative? Stay here in this spot or
Mm.
keep going, and no matter how rough it was, and the book just continuously talks about those things, those ups and those downs and those trying times and those times where it looks like you probably need to give up, to go through those things and go from your associates to your bachelor's degree to later your master's and eventually your doctorate degree, and get an opportunity to work in education and rise up in the field of education to where now I'm the principal at a school in Mobile. So it has really been a journey, and I decided
Yeah.
to write about it.
What was the motivating factor? What kept you, when you decide that you're going to go back to school and you checked your schedule, everything's lined up, and then almost immediately they hit you with that, and then you have other difficulties. Your cousin passing away at the job. Like, What kept you in it? What kept you from saying, well, I guess I'm just gonna stick with what I got.
Uh, my daughters. I didn't, I was single parent home and I wanted to give them more than what I had.
Hmm.
And in my current situation, that wasn't feasible. That was a time to where it took everything just to pay the bills. I had a little push lawnmower that I would load in the back of a Ford Escort, and you know, a small car. I put the push mower in the trunk and my weed eater in the back seat, and I would push people's yards for money from my own personal pocket because it took my whole paycheck to pay the bills, and that was not enough to give them all the things that I wanted to provide for them. So when doing those things just made me want to keep going. And believe me, it was no guarantee to me. It was no, because most people were telling me I was wasting my time. Most people was, I had a lot of naysayers. I didn't have a whole lot of cheerleaders,
Yeah.
that was saying, hey, you finished this degree and this is gonna happen. And no, it was more so you wasted your time, because I thought things was gonna work out. I got my associate's degree in microcomputer networking, and I just knew I was gonna get this job working in computers and all. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And even when I finished those degrees at times, it wasn't a bed of roses on the other side. Wasn't no keys to the kingdom on the other side. You just really just a whole lot of doors closing in your face. And you did feel like at times that it was a waste of time. That this is not going to work out for me. I would be lying to you if I was to say that I felt like everything good going to happen because it didn't. It didn't happen instantly. But most of the time, the breakthroughs that came for me was when I wasn't looking.
Hmm.
When I wasn't looking, I mean, I had an opportunity for a lot of people to get to know me as a person and see how determined I was and how I didn't have a whole lot of quit in me. And they remembered that. I I was a few I was I'm probably about 6 months away from my bachelor's degree. It was an evening studies program, Huntington College, and every night, first night of class, you say, "Hey, my name is Vinson Bradley," and I do this. And at that time, I had recently lost my job, and I stood up and I said, "Hey, my name is Vinson Bradley, and I'm currently unemployed." One of my classmates, who owned a cleaners, um, talked to me after class. He said, "Hey, Vincent, I may have something for you." And I ended up going to work for him as his pickup and delivery driver. Um, at a dry cleaning, but that was the best thing that could have ever happened for me because
Yeah.
I got to go out and meet people. I'm going to homes with prominent people on the Eastern Shore. They're getting to know you as a person, and you years later, when I started working for a college, went to a chamber annual meeting down at the Grand Hotel in Fairhope, and we went in there, and my current coworkers were like, "How do all these people know you?" Because I knew pretty much almost everybody in the room. I'm shaking hands, kissing babies. Uh, and unbeknownst to them, I was a pickup and delivery driver. I know these
Yeah.
people because I was a pickup and delivery driver. But yeah, I never don't want to meet people.
Yeah.
And I wrote the book um, for my mother. My mother is dedicated to her. She passed away in August of 2022. And I was working on my bachelor's degree, and she took sick. And I was sitting there, yeah, and we was having a conversation, talking about one thing, and I was writing a paper for school at the same time. And she just sitting there watching me. She was like, "What you doing, son?" I said,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm writing." I remember the class. It was a history of Christianity. And I was writing paper, but we talking about something completely different. She said, "You able to have a conversation with me talking about one thing and writing about another thing. So You got two different thoughts going on at the same time. Yet you engaged in this conversation with me, but you're writing about something that's completely different. And she said, let me see what you. And then she read it, and she say, "Son, you, you're a gifted writer." Yeah, like, hey, ain't really paid a whole lot of attention, But that continued over the years, and so after she passed, I sat and I said, you know what? Mama always tried to get me to write, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it. I'm gonna tell my story. So that's how against all odds happened.
It's funny. It's funny because you put this in a very eloquent way in the book, and it comes through in your book. But I know Justin and I have lived this, and I know that our listeners are going to resonate with this as well. Like when I was in the Navy, I did 12 years in the Navy, and I
Hmm.
thought I was going to do 30 years in the Navy. Like especially
Hmm.
when I got into the Riverines, I said, "Oh, I found my calling. This is what I'm going to do." Well, then uh I hit one roadblock and I ended up hitting another roadblock, and so unexpectedly I just got out of the Navy.
Hmm.
And we had to move back to Kansas. I was going to school and thought I was going to be a game warden, a natural resources officer there. Well, that ended up not working out, so I got a job at the jail, which I ended up getting on the road. I thought I was going to be on the road forever. I thought
Hmm.
I was going to be a patrol cop forever. Well, then I hit another couple roadblocks there. And it's not what you're doing is what the message I got from God, from the universe, the big thing after that. It's not what you're doing, is more of it's the fact that you're willing to take the next step. You're willing to
Hmm.
just keep on going. You mentioned your mom, and the first part of your book is pretty heavy on this. What was it like growing up? What was your childhood, and who instilled this into you, you think?
You know what? My childhood was I guess I've been this way my whole life, because my childhood it, it was not good. We didn't have a whole lot. My mother couldn't drive. We didn't have a car. My mother was in her about 45 years old before she got a driver's license.
How many
So
brothers and sisters did you have?
it's five of us. It's five of us. I'm the fourth. And I have one younger sister, and it was five. We had a single mother. She was the oldest of 11. She ended up dropping out of school to help take care of her younger siblings. And my mother, she worked at a place called Jones Truck Stop at night. She worked at the truck stop by night, and she worked at a plant, a wood lumber yard by day. And later on, she got a job working at Vanity Fair down in Robertsdale. And she we didn't have a whole lot. We had a two-bedroom trailer, and with five kids. Me and my brother had the top bunk, and my first cousin, who is the one who passed away at the plant. He grew up more like our brother rather than our
Right.
cousin because he was the only child at the time. He had a younger sister later, but at the time, me and my brother was the only two. We was his brothers, and so it basically was three on the top and three on the bottom.
Wow.
A two-bedroom trailer, and we many days the lights went on. Many days we went and the water wasn't on. One of the saddest days, my oldest, we used to come in and get off the bus and go in the house and wait until the bus leave. And I would go back out, to the water meter and turn the water back on. But just so happened, just this one particular day, I came back in and my older sister was like, VC is what they called me. VC, why you didn't turn the water on? She had the sink trying to turn the water on, and I said I can't. And she was like, "You done did it, boy. You done did this 1,000 times. You go, why you didn't turn the water on?" I said I can't, and she turned, and I just started crying, and I said it's gone. They had taken the whole meat up and tapped it off, and we used to have this 10 garbage can. I may have been 10 at the time. We were loaded. Older guy who lived in the community would come in the afternoon and pick us up. And I would go and fill that garbage can up and put it in the trunk and take it home. We would dip water out of it. My sister would heat it up, and we would have to bathe fast. for the water get cold. And it was, but my mother, she did the best that she could.
Yeah.
And we we very close. Me and my siblings are very close because we had to be.
Yeah.
We were our own entertainment. We never let our situation or our circumstances determine how we felt or how we looked at life. And then we didn't do pity parties. It's like it's gonna take. We gonna have to change the situation. My brother, Dr. Vinson Bradley, he's a professor, and he is the dean of the School of Business at Belmont University now. My oldest sister is the director of archives with Baldwin County. My second oldest sister is a VP of Human Resources. I'm a doctorate of education, and my youngest sister, who we stayed on, until she finished her bachelor's degree in May of 2022, and my mother passed away in August of 2022. So she lived to see all 5 of her kids go across that stage.
Yeah.
And she eventually, the best thing could ever happen to her years later. Vanity Fair shut down in Robertsdale, and they had 2 choices. You could either transfer to a facility that they had in Atmore, or you could go back to school. And she used that as an opportunity. She went back to school through the JTPA program and got her GED. And from there, she went on to Reed State, and she got her LPN. And you talking about someone who was so excited to go back to school. I mean, and she won every award there was to win. And one of her proudest moments was Florence Nightingale Award for the most outstanding student that she got at Reed State. And we all grown, so we there celebrating her, so proud. And she started working at USA in Mobile, and one day someone ran a light and they hit her car, and she was just getting her career started, and they hit her and they messed up her back, and she spent the rest of her life on a walker. And the last few years of her life, 100% bedbound. But she had no quit in her. And if she is, she taught us that you may not have lights, you may not have water, but you come out that house and you carry yourself like you got $1 million. You dress a certain kind of way, you speak a certain kind of way, you treat people a certain kind of way, and you just, she was our everything.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like not only were there no excuses, like their excuses weren't even an option.
No, they weren't. They weren't. I was used to not getting anything for Christmas.
Right.
I was used to, I understood the situation. And the last thing we was gonna do was make our mother feel bad about it, not being able to do something that she financially not able to do. And growing up that way, that determination. I didn't want my kids to continuously go without the things that I went without. And so my childhood and the things that I went through and the things that I wanted to provide for them was my motivation. Because a young lady, I had a book signing recently at Barnes and Nobles in Pensacola that had asked me, what kept me going. I said, what was the alternative?
Yeah.
Stay here. This situation is not the situation that I want to be in 5 years from now. Or 2 years from now. I got to start working on something that's going to help me change it. Failure wasn't an option. It never has been.
You say that, you say that, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, what else is the option? But there's a lot of people that take that option that say, mm-hmm. Well, it's not for me. I'm just going to stay put.
It is.
And instead of, and it's no judgment because I find myself there often, as well. But I think a lot of people find themselves in bad spots and feel like they're a lot more helpless than they actually are.
They do. They really do. And it is definitely was times that I felt that way too. And but I just would find the strength to just keep going. And that's part of it. I know there's people that's there in that spot. I know there's people that maybe in a storm that they don't feel like ever gonna lift. Um, but you just keep moving,
Yeah.
and just keep moving.
Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't have that example that your mother gave to you, or even
Hmm.
that the lack of options, like your mom said, you will carry yourself a certain way, you will
Oh yeah.
present yourself a certain way. A lot of people, unfortunately, in the world today, find themselves in, these less than desirable positions, but they don't have any example. They don't have
Yeah.
anyone that's making them go out and make these better choices. They don't have anyone saying, "Hey, you will go out and present yourself, in a better way."
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
seems like that's one of the gifts that you get to keep on giving, and your position as a principal, and just your
Yeah.
position as an author, and your position,
Yeah.
just where God puts you, is that you have the opportunity now to give these people the guide that they might not necessarily have at home or in their own community.
You're exactly right, and I get to live it every day. In at the school that I'm at, I was talking to a young man last week, and I may be the only person that is in his life that tell you what you can do.
Yeah.
That and me, because what they meet you at this station in your life, they're like, hey, you Dr. Bradley, you
Hmm.
have been through anything, this and that.
Easy for you to say.
Easy for you to say. And I was there with a young man right before the Christmas break, and he found out that his the girlfriend, the young lady friend, was pregnant. And he was there crying, and and he crying with him. And he like, Dr. Bradley, why you crying? I said, young man, I was you at one point in time. And just and now after having that dialogue with him, he sees me completely different than me and him has that we had a bad relationship before, but we have a much better relationship now because and God puts you in places. When I first came to K through 12, because I'd have been all over education. I'd have been to the 4-year college, I've been to 2-year college, and I'm in K through 12, and work with these young people. And I'm like, when I ended up in K through 12, I'm like, oh my. This is some kind of punishment, and but I don't question those things, and I learned not to question those things. I'm exactly where I'm intended to be,
That's right.
and it's not for me to see right now. I may see it later on, but as I go down this road, I'm like, these people need me. These young people need me.
The world needs
They,
you.
they need me to talk to them. They need me to tell them what they can do. Because you're right, a lot of people don't have. Um, my mother. My mother didn't have a. She didn't have a high school education. She didn't have even a car. But what she did know what she wanted. She knew what she wanted her kids to turn out to be. She knew we were smart, and she knew she wasn't gonna settle for the last thing I was gonna do was bring home a D.
Yeah.
She was we was gonna get our grades, and she set a standard. And a lot of people don't have anyone in their life that set a standard.
Yeah.
And you may not. That don't mean you're not smart because you don't have. You gonna try your best and you gonna do your best. And but these kids, we getting ready for the ACT
Hmm.
in a couple of weeks. And I'm basically a cheerleader principal right now because I'm constantly running around the school telling these kids, to give me their best. I got faith in you. I believe you can do it. You can do it. And I see as I do those things, they get to a place to where they don't want to let me down
Yeah.
because I may be the only person telling them what they can do.
The
telling
whole
you that
world is telling them what they
yeah,
can't do.
the whole world. I mean, you do not have a shortage of people telling you what you can't do, and Lord knows I had my share.
Hmm.
And what happens is when you do those things that they said that you wasn't gonna do, they don't know how to deal with you anymore. They'll stop talking to you
Hmm.
because you did everything that they said that you wasn't gonna do. I lost friends because I became something.
Yeah.
And, because they had did all this talking about what I wasn't gonna be able to do, and I was going against the odds. I was the one of the only ones in my high school class, that had a baby in high school. So a lot of it was, I was the one that was written off.
Exactly.
And being able to see me now and some of the things that I'm doing, and my three daughters, I'm so proud of them. My oldest is a occupational therapist in Atlanta. She and my twin daughters, Caitlin and Jessica, they both have their masters. One from Troy, and the other one from University of West Alabama, and both of them finished their undergrad at Huntington College, where I finished my bachelor's. So I'm just as proud of them, and they did those things. But I said that same stand up push them, the same way my mother pushed me, and now I try to do that with a school full of kids who need that motivation.
Was there a clear moment for you when you transitioned from computers to education, or what got you focused on education as a career?
Well, you know what? I guess I just stumbled on it because my bachelor's was actually in business management. And the reason I went in business management, one of my teachers told me, that you can, one thing about business, if you don't know which direction you want to go, it's the business aspect of everything. So you can't go wrong with business. So I went and bachelor's in business. And what happened was I was working at the cleaners. Um, and when my former academic advisor for Huntington College, when I was in the evening studies program, they had an assistant site coordinator position coming open in Baldwin County. And she remembered me as a student. And Vincent just he know the curriculum and he understand he can talk to people and he can motivate people. He's not a quitter and he's not gonna let you quit. So she thought about me and she called me. I get a call at the cleaners. They called me to the front desk and she was like, "Hey, can you come by here?" Because I never got calls from the front desk at the cleaner. And I said, "Yeah, I can come by there." And she told me about the opportunity. It actually was going to be a pay cut for me, but I just got so excited and I wanted an opportunity to get to work in education. So I started working for the college Huntington that I had got my bachelor's from as an assistant site coordinator, and I left the cleaners to go there. That's how I got my start in education. And when I started as an assistant site coordinator, now you're dealing with adult learners, these people who have some credits but just had not finished their bachelor's, and they can finish their bachelor's on a community college campus. So when I came in, I was just that. As people, I met them and I took it so serious, because I was their academic advisor and I develop a plan of study and call them and try to I would get to know them. I knew everybody wasn't ready to take finance. Just because you met the prereq, you may not have been in school in the last 20 years. The prereq was account one, account two, micro and macroeconomics, and you could take finance, but this person may not have been in school in 20 years. So I would get to know the people. And the proudest thing that would say in my years of education was that job at Huntington taught me everything that, because you was a one person school, you was a recruiter, you was a promoter, you was an academic advisor, you was a financial aid director. It was you, and you built some real relationships. And these people was 100% dependent on me to help guide them from wherever I meet them at to across that stage at graduation. And I took it so serious. The first 2 years that I was in that role, every student that started that program graduated.
Wow.
I refused to let them quit.
Mm-hmm.
I would call them, you can do it. I was more of a cheerleader than anything else. And it's not a graduation that we had at 100 I didn't sit there and cry because I knew their story. I knew that there was a grandmother that was going back to school. She had to put her kids through school. I knew their story. And I wouldn't let them give up even when it got tough. And and I would set their schedules. I knew the curriculum so well. I knew how to weave in the difficult class with the easier classes, and and just to where you built up that encouragement, and that confidence as they went through. And by the time they got there towards the end, they felt like they could run through a wall. When you run across that management 499, a capstone course that may whoop you down if you take it at the wrong time or if your mind not in the right place. And those are things that, because I had been through so much, I felt like I could give to others and help guide them across that stage. And that's one thing but it taught me everything. So later years, when I started to elevate in the field of education, when I say I started from the bottom, I truly mean I started from the bottom. So now that you are a principal or you done rose up to be a dean, I know what it feels like to be an admissions counselor.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I can relate to almost everybody. I know what it feels like to be, a academic advisor, a financial aid person, and I can relate to those people, even and really be able to be sympathetic and empathetic to their situation, but at the same time hold them accountable because I know how the job is supposed to be done.
Yeah.
So nothing when nothing was given to you, you take nothing for granted, and you just continuously work, and you try to just put as much into people as you can along your way.
When going back just a little bit, when you were in high school, before your girlfriend at the time
Mm-hmm.
got pregnant, how
Mm-hmm.
did you see your life going? What did you think you were going to be doing?
Oh, I was going off to college on a football scholarship. I was all county. I was, I had all. Florida State was recruiting me hard. Auburn, and and going. And my junior year was great. I was getting a lot of attention. It's like the prior to my senior year, that's when I found out that she was pregnant, and everything shifted for me
Yeah.
at that point. At that point, it was my mind was running 120 miles an hour. I knew I never was one to run from my responsibility. I knew that I'm gonna have to take care of my baby. At that time, it was well before the NIL. If you was on a football scholarship, you couldn't have a job. And I'm like, I gotta provide for my baby. I gotta, so I pretty much wasn't. I turned down football scholarships because I wanted to work.
Football was out
Uh,
of the question at that
it
point.
was out of the question. Far as going on to college to play ball, it was out of the question. It became second nature the minute I found out. And it was a distant memory, and I still played, but was I there? No, I wasn't there. My mental state was putting myself in a situation where I could try that. And I was working at Burger King at the time. I was working at Burger King in Gulf Shores. I was riding the brat bus down on weekends, and in the
Dang, you're
summertime.
traveling all over.
Yeah, I mean, we had a brat bus in Bay Minette that picked you up at McDonald's, and it would take you down to uh, Burger King and McDonald's and stuff in Gulf Shores because they paid more down there. And we used to catch that brat bus in the summertime, and that's what I did, and I get my little check and I'm going to buy Pampers and clothes and tennis shoes and all. I mean, it's just that became my life at a very young age.
Did you what got you into education? Because like I said, you were doing or you were the initial plan was football, and then that got
Hmm.
out of the question, and
Hmm.
then you got into computer sciences.
Hmm.
What guided you? Like what put you to where you are now? But even what started to steer you in that direction?
When I was a student at Huntington, my oldest sister was a registrar at the community college. So that what really made me start looking at education, but I really didn't see an avenue.
Hmm.
It was when I became a student at Huntington, and I just saw how the program ran. And I just like, if I ever get an opportunity to work in education, I think I'll do good at it. That's basically just something I'm saying to myself. Didn't ever
Hmm.
really think it would happen. But it's something so later on, I started putting in for a few jobs, at like a financial aid assistant or admissions person at the local community college, and I make it to the top three sometimes. And, with interview, I never got the job. But, and that day when I got that call at Champion Cleaners, and she asked me, would I be interested in being an assistant site coordinator? The thought of saying no never crossed my mind, even though it was going to be a pay cut. And then once I got an opportunity to work in education, it's like everything started clicking. I'm in a position where I can help people. I'm in a position where I can motivate people. I'm in a position to where, I can encourage people, and just help get them from this place to this place, and they depending on me, and I just started taking it that serious. So I I think education found me,
Yeah.
and rather than me finding it, and it was just meant for me to be in this field, and once I got in the field, I just fell in love with it, and in every avenue, I went from assistant site coordinator to site coordinator to director of professional development to director of evening studies operations to director of enrollment management for the statewide, because we had 13 sites throughout the state on different community college campuses, and I had roles up to be, and this was over 7, 8 year period. You went from no experience in education and to running a whole program in only a few years. And it was, but I had the work ethic of a concrete pole builder.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I, I'm that person that worked 50 hours, at a juvenile detention center, and rode around with a push mower in
Yeah.
the back of an escort. So this is more than a opportunity for me. It's more than just a job. So I went in there like with that hunger, that person that, to where failure isn't an option. It never has been. I could possibly get an opportunity to put my family in a better situation. This is everything that I had been wishing for and hoping for and praying for. This door is here.
Yeah.
Okay, now that I'm here, what am I going to do? And I took that same work ethic, into that field, to where I'm giving it everything that I have, and not just that. I mean, I started working in the community. I started getting involved with the local chamber. I joined the young professionals of the North Baldwin Chamber. I got on the board of directors for the North Baldwin Chamber. I later became the chairman, the board chairperson. I started sitting on all these boards, United Way, United Bank. Uh, Still sit on that board to this day. North Baldwin Infirmary Foundation. Won the Harry Steele Citizen of the Year with the Chamber for my community service work. It was won the National Administrator of the Year. When you get determination and motivation with work ethic and someone who genuinely care about people,
Hmm.
that's a combination. So so the awards and all the accolades that I've received over the years, and I talk about none of those things in the book.
Yeah.
And I definitely talk about none of those things in the book. But those are all things that I've been able to accomplish in my years, and it's and one of the proudest moments was my students nominated me for National Administrator of the Year, and I flew out to Denver, Colorado, uh, to get that award, and it was a few months before my mother passed.
Hmm.
So to see her baby boy, that always be special. It's always gonna be special.
That's incredible.
I can hear I can hear the passion that you have for helping people and for not letting people fail and for not letting people make excuses and for holding people accountable. Is that something that has always been part of your personality, your character, is to help those around you? Is that something that you unlocked when you started this career?
I think it's something. I think it was always there. I just really started tapping into it when I got into that role in education. And as the years went by, I just really just started to find my way and started to realize just how many people need that.
Mm-hmm.
Just may need that person that say you can,
Hmm.
or that person who they know care. Because one thing about, and I tell students that all the time, um, I want them to hold me accountable. If I tell you I'm gonna do something, and I don't do it, you light me up. You got my permission to light me up. But it's the flip side to that. I'm gonna hold you to that same standard. All right. So we're gonna hold each other to the same standard. And with that, I don't want to let them down and they don't want to let me down. And so we push each other. I get them to where they push me and I push them.
Mm-hmm.
And they good with it because they know I'm not holding them to a standard that I'm not allowing them to hold me to.
Yeah.
And when it's like that, you students really start to embrace you, and they really start to see that you truly care about their well-being. So me going around saying, "Hey, quit playing. I need you to do your best on this," because a lot of time when they take these practice tests and all this, they just clicking through and all this, and I just go around and say, "Hey, I'm looking at these scores. I know you ain't doing the best you can. I need you to give me what you got. I got you, doc. And those things go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
They go a long way with students because I may be the only person who told them that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And
uh, that's it.
and truthfully, you may be, something that I think is lacking in leadership everywhere is accountability.
Hmm.
Accountability from the leader. And there's nothing that will decay trust or um, prevent accountability like a leader who can't be questioned or who can't be criticized or even just flat out told they're wrong.
Hmm.
And I think that the fact that you do that, the fact that you say, hey, you're going to hold me accountable just as much as I'm going to hold you accountable, I think
Hmm.
that goes such a long way.
Yes, I do too, I see that it's different from a lot of my colleagues, and but I came through different. I didn't get here by not holding myself accountable. Somebody been holding me accountable for as long as I can remember, and to where I embrace it. And if And that's the thing, going into that role as assistant site coordinator with Hunter, and you talking about these people putting their whole trust in you to do what you say you're gonna do when you say you're gonna do it, to make sure that they paperwork is processed, or make sure that everything is done. And if I don't hold myself to a high level of accountability, then something gonna fall through.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, or you call and you email, and I'm gonna respond to you. I'm gonna give you everything I got to give. When that flips is later when they talking about quitting on me. And then at that point we can have real conversations because we got a real relationship now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, they started out holding me accountable. I do it first. I'm like, I'm not telling you to go first. I'm gonna go first. All right. You hold me to a high standard, and I'm gonna meet every challenge that you put in front of me. Now later on, that shoe gonna change. The shoe gonna turn,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna hold you to that same standard. Now I ain't gonna get a lot of pushback at that point because we done built that relationship, and they done held me to that standard. I done met every challenge that they put in front of me. So now I'm saying this from a different place. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying this from a real relationship. I'm saying this from a high level of accountability. I'm saying this to a relationship that's built on accountability on both parts,
Mm-hmm.
not just on my part, not just on their part. Because a lot of time we asking people to do stuff that we don't do.
Mm-hmm.
So then when times get tough and you got to have a real conversation with somebody, we wonder why they don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
But you hadn't shown them that you'll go the extra mile for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't even have a real relationship with these people. You hadn't even really had sat down and talked to these people, and that go a long way because people they they want to know somebody care, but they want to know that you will do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no different when with employees as I am students. You know, I'll be out there in the morning picking up trash in the parking lot. I'll be out there in the morning in car duty. It ain't nothing I'm too proud to do because I done it all. I come from nothing. I done been that person out there picking up trash. I've been that person, doing it. Ain't nothing in this school I'm too proud to do. And with that being the case, we all got to do our part to make sure that we keep the school running smoothly. And you hold me to the same standard that I'm holding you to, and that's just how I live my life.
What in your time in education, how has it changed for young people? Like, how have you seen education change, develop, evolve? And what are the biggest challenges, the potential roadblocks that young people are running into today that might be holding them back?
It's so many different things that they can get into nowadays. Um, well, one, the level of accountability is not um, as high as it once was. We, back in my days, you had to pass a graduation exam, in order to graduate from from high school, and these they take a lot of times they don't take assessments and stuff serious. We had to.
Hmm.
A lot of times, people, students, they don't take a lot of stuff serious. And they don't take a lot of stuff serious. And there's so much stuff that they could get into. The biggest challenges that school faces nowadays is those vapes.
Hmm.
Vapes is a serious issue. Um, these kids are doing some of everything, and they come to school. Um, Cell phones is an issue. Vapes is an issue. They got all these different distractions.
Yes.
Keeping their attention. And then the emergence of AI and which is good in a lot of aspects, but it's bad in a lot of other aspects because we find a lot of kids that have a hard time even writing, putting their own thoughts into words.
Hmm.
And the first thing they gonna do is go chat GPT or something like that. So we're fighting against individual thought. So now you put them in front of a ACT assessment test, and without the presence of AI, it's just you in the test. Um, they don't know where to start,
Right.
and this starting, from early on. So it's like you find kids less prepared once they make it to high school than they once were. You'll be
Absolutely.
surprised the simple things that we didn't think a whole lot of, that they have a hard time doing. And when I worked at the community college, I really didn't understand, because we had so many kids that started out in English, old nine there, the intermediate Englishes and maths before you even make it to a transferable uh, academic course, and like English 101 and English 102, which will transfer. But most of them not prepared to go directly into those classes. And I see it. I see it now on K through 12 because these kids, they had, so the challenge is computers and distractions and, is key attention spans and just going back to the basics,
Yeah,
and we're going to have to start back pulling out pencils and paper,
that's right.
uh, and because that's what we don't. Everything is computerized nowadays, and that's a good and bad thing. And so that's what you're really fighting against.
My wife and I were talking about this. We have been talking about this, but we saw a news article, and I was able to find a study that kind of reconfirmed this. But in 2010 was the turning point in a lot of public education and a lot of education period. That's when young people were had lived their whole life in the age of the internet and the age of all this technology, and they were getting to middle school, high school, and early college, and that's whenever they found around that 2010 time frame that for the first time the new generation wasn't as prepared or even as developed as the generations before them. Up
Mhm.
until that point, every generation had been making progress. They said they used smarter. They had been getting higher and higher test grades. But at 2010 is where it kind of turned a curve, and they were able to track it down to that's when these technological aids were introduced in the classroom. That's when computers and the iPads and the phones and everything. These kids had these devices doing their thinking for them.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
ha- how have you seen that, and what are what are the steps that you're taking, or that maybe education as a whole should take to adapt? Because there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. That genie's
Yeah.
out there. What are we gonna have to do?
Well, you're right. There's no taking it back. What you're having to do now, you have to put basically all these different safeguards on your computers to keep them from scrolling on sites that's not educational.
Yeah.
To keep them from being able to chat GPT everything or Google every answer when everything is on computers. I mean, in a sense, we're gonna have to go back to textbooks,
Yes.
or at least more diversity. What we have done, what it seems to me is we at one point we was completely textbook with a little bit of technology, and especially since COVID.
Mm.
Since COVID, when everything had to switch over to technology and internet based, and coming back from it, we never adjusted back. We
Yeah.
just got we just have done more of it, added more and more and more and more technology, to where now you're getting more students who are underprepared, and these kids, and it's a lot of hand holding. There's a lot of hand holding, and being that person who has been on both sides of the educational fence, I saw so many students. underprepared when they make it to college, because on the college side, you got that FERPA, the way you treated it as an adult, and ain't nobody gonna call reminding you of these things. Your communication coming through your student email, and these kids ain't checking no email. I mean, they're not checking email. They got people who calling and reminding them everything. And
Yeah.
when you go to that point where you applying to colleges, this and that, once you get accepted into the college, they're not sending you anything to your personal email after that. Once you get your student email, it's going to your student email, your financial aid information, everything you need to know. Your schedule for setting up a schedule for you to meet with your academic advisor, to register for classes, everything going to your studio. These kids don't know to do that.
No.
They don't know to do that. And it has to be, to me, more of and that's what we've been doing. What we have been doing with our ACT prep, because that's been the biggest push lately, in my role is getting these kids to the ACT is March 19th, is getting them ready for ACT. And we doing a lot of paper pencil stuff. We're doing a lot of handheld calculator stuff, not computerized calculator stuff. We're doing a lot of preparation the old school way, but it's the way that we know you have to know it, and you have to know it just to think through these questions and actually read through these passages. And then the reading portion, the scores have really started to decline over the last 5 to 6 years in the reading portions of the ACT, because these kids not used to reading passages. And especially not reading passages and having to identify answers in a short period of time and go back and be able to retain that information. They just reading. They're not reading to understand. They're reading because you asked them to read.
Just to get through
the
it.
comprehension part of it is no comprehension.
They have these shorts from
Yeah.
YouTube or from Instagram or TikTok
Yeah.
or whatever. It might be 5-10 second shorts, but even that, they're only watching 2 seconds of it before they're
That's it.
scrolling to another one.
Yeah.
It's stealing their attention.
Mhm.
They almost need, I think this is a crossover in your education and just to the human experience. You almost need a blunt instrument to break through to tell you that you have the capability. You have the answers. The answers are in you, but
Yeah.
you almost need a blunt instrument to break through and to show you that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We had to actually think through it and think about what we just read and think, just remember things. Now, Google.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not gonna sit there and rack their brain trying to think of something, when I could just, they'll sit there and look at you like, why you sit there why don't you just Google it? They'll tell you that in a heartbeat now. And I'm like, see, that's the problem. Sometimes it's good for you to sit here and try to remember, or try to think through these things. Google, yeah, Google is a resource that I use myself, but I
That's
can't
right.
use it for everything. And and they get to a place where they use it for everything, and it has to be more of a balance. So in a sense, we're gonna have to start utilizing more old school practices,
Yeah.
and be a little bit more diverse, because if they got them computers, if they got that any form of technology in their hand, whether it be that cell phone, computer, tablet, laptop, whatever, they're gonna use it
Yep.
to find that answer. The only way they're gonna sit there and think through is if they ain't got no choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, why would they not? I mean, if
Yeah.
I have this, why am I not going to use it?
Well, you crazy not to use that. That's the way they think.
Yeah.
And but when you do real life assessments, and we wonder why our scores continuously decline, because now they're in a place where, and then they get, the attention span is shorter. So they're gonna just midway through, even if they start out giving their best.
Yeah.
When they get tired, it's over with. I mean, they're gonna start marking anything at that point,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna get true. That's why these boot camps and these practices and these days to lead up to that. You getting them, you building their stamina. Ultimately, is what you're trying to do. You're trying to build up their ability to be able to think through things for a period of time. Just not, and because that's what happens if you don't do those things, then they just gonna get to that place to where they just really just snap through.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the values of so I've got a senior and an eighth grader, and I think back to conversations that we've had or that we regularly have, and they'll say something about why do I have to write about this story? I don't care about this story. Or why do I have to do these math problems? I'm never going to have to do this. And I think that we lose, maybe students or kids lose sight of the fact that, no, this isn't about this story. This is about you being able to understand it and you being able to think critically. Or this isn't about this math problem. Yeah, you may never use this type of math. But the journey is not the destination, it's the journey. Learning how to process complex information and how to do all of these things. Yeah, nobody cares about that. About that story, whatever. It's the ability to be able to do it.
Yep.
And I think that gets lost a lot. And so if I just approach this from a perspective, oh, you want the answer? Well, let me just type it in my calculator. Let me just ask Google, because I can give you the answer. But that's not what we're after. We're not after the answer. We're after the ability to process it and come up with an answer.
Yep. And get them to a place where they understand that, that's the most difficult thing. Because that's the part where you get the most pushback from them. They don't see the sense in doing it that way. They
it's
don't.
A waste
they
of
don't.
time.
They don't.
What else are you going to be doing?
Yeah, they don't see that. Is any value in it for them? It's no value in it for me. Why I got to do that when I can just, look this up and get the answer and go on, move on. And that's the thing. They're in a hurry. A lot of times they're in a hurry to get back to doing nothing.
Yeah.
They're in a hurry to get back to doing nothing. They want to run through. They get back to talking, get back to doing whatever it is that they're doing on their cell phones or whatever it may be. But they in a hurry to go to the next problem. Or go to the next reading assignment. And that's something that I understand. And understanding, and I spend as much time as I can talking to students about these very things, the importance of knowing the process of doing things. I never was much of a reader until I started working on my master's in that Spring Hill, and they my very first few classes in my master's program was literature classes, and I'm like, man, what did I do to deserve this? And I never really understood literature, until I got to Spring Hill. And you read the story, and what I would do is, you ask me to write a paper, I'm just gonna regurgitate the story in my own words, and I would get a C minus or something like that. And one day I talked to my teacher, like, hey, man, I can't be getting on C's. I mean, what's the what do I need to change? They say, I need you to. It ain't no right or wrong answer. See, I don't need you to rewrite what you just read. I know the story. I want you to tell me your perspective of what the story means and make me believe it. I say, so you want me to just get the basics of the story and just rewrite a whole nother story and make it believable to me, to where I can, make a case for what I think this. Oh, when that clicked to me, it became fun.
Yeah.
Because I guess I just like to write my own thing. But it became one of the funnest classes. So I'm one class away from being a double major. If I went back and got my master's, I'd be able to teach literature as well as history, because my master's in liberal arts is in history. But yeah, I'm one class away from being able to do literature too, because I found it to be the most intriguing thing. But that was a real conversation with someone who could tell me something that'll make it click. The thing is, what real conversation happening with these young people that makes something click? That's the most difficult thing. Getting them to that place to where it clicked for them. We know why this is important for them. Getting them to that place to where they understand why it's important to them, to where it click and they want to do it. That conversation made me want to take a literature class. Mm. It's more difficult nowadays to get them to that place to where these young people want to do it. Everything that they doing, they feel like we forcing them to do it. I don't really see the importance of this right here, and we got to start back having real conversation with these kids, and that's one of the biggest things that I preach to teachers. During our advisory or intervention classes, that's your opportunity to build real relationships with these students. That's more than just academics. So we just letting the conversation stop when they say, I ain't never gonna use this and that. We gotta find ways to let them know how it's gonna be, how it can be fun for them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that take a little creativity, and that's what happened for me. And and a lot of times when I do talk to these young people, I'm finding that's the case. When they realize, oh, it's some importance in it. Oh, okay, I can do this. I can knock this out. We gotta make them care. Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest thing, getting them to the point where they care.
Yeah. And one thing I was going to ask about, specifically about accountability, is in a world and in family systems, in a culture where nobody holds really anybody. We don't even hold our highest levels of politics. Like, we don't hold anybody accountable. Mm-hmm. And now you, Mr. Bradley, are holding me accountable. Like, I don't see this anywhere else in my life, right? Except for right now. How do you navigate that when you know that you're the only person that's going to not accept their excuses or lack of effort or lack of care even? How do you deal with that?
The biggest thing that I have found for me with that is consistency. What I say today, I'm gonna say tomorrow. What I say tomorrow, I'm gonna say next week. What I say next week, I'm gonna say a month from now. And that's the thing that a lot of these kids lack, more so than anything. Somebody consistent. And you may be the only thing consistent in their life. And over time, they start to embrace it, especially with these young men. And because you're talking about young African-American men that I'm meeting at 15, 16 years old that has never had a consistent male figure in their life. And I've seen where from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year, they know exactly what you're going to say. They know exactly what you expect. They know exactly what you're going to do in this situation. They know what you're going to do better than you know what you're going to do, because they'll be sitting there watching you. And they'll be sitting there. And then when you know you're really making that impact, when they start telling others, hey, Dr. Bradley don't play by this. Hey, you do this here for Dr. Bradley see you. You see that level of consistency that's sunk in. All right. So they show it different nowadays. They're not going to come in and it's a group of kids every day. My office second period is full every day because this group of young men, all young men, 7 or 8 of them, don't have a second block class. These all used to be skippers. We used to be in the bathroom skipping, trying to be. These jokers come to my office and sit every day, second period. I don't have to look for them. I don't have to call for them. I don't have to. They just come. And when they come, they want to talk to me. They want to know how my weekend was. They want to have real conversations with you. And several of them got in trouble throughout the course of the school year, but none of them get in trouble now.
Hmm.
And I didn't. One of them I knew before this year because I had him last year. But the other six I just met this year. And me coming in or giving them that space, not putting them out, giving them a space, telling them, hey, I'd rather you come and sit here and stay out of trouble than be in the bathroom skipping or getting in, doing things you ain't got no business. And just being willing to open a door for them.
Mm-hmm.
And not fuss at them or not, just try to run them off. That has done more for those young men than anything else. And so I just see it every day, and being consistent with what you do, it makes the biggest impact with these young people nowadays.
You know what's hard about that is I'm sure that there are probably a lot of people, and I would probably be one of them, that would love to have just a step-by-step, well, you just got to do these things and you'll just hold them
Mm-hmm.
accountable. But it starts with you're holding yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
By being consistent, because it's hard to be consistent. It's hard, especially if you feel like it's not working and you want to say, okay, well, let's try something different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's do this. Or I'm just not feeling it today. I'm going to look the other way while this kid is doing whatever he's doing in the hallway.
Yep.
And that's so hard to start with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds to me like that's what you're saying.
Everything with me starts with me. Everything. I'm never gonna ask someone to do it if I didn't show you what I do first. I'm gonna be consistent with what time I arrive to work. What I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm gonna come down the hallway. This and that. It's gonna be the same exact expectation. I don't veer from it. And with that, they watching.
Mm-hmm.
They watching. And so later, when you eventually have to stop asking, you eventually won't have to ask them to pull their pants up.
Yeah.
Took their shirt tail in. Where you tired? And all those things. They see you come around that corner. They already took their shirt in. I get to that place where you don't have to talk. They just know. And that's the biggest thing, and I have to be consistent with everything I do with these kids because that may be the only consistent thing that they see. And you find them, they want to, then they get to the place where they want to impress you. I remember we had hoods and, when the seniors were getting dressed and they had to take the tuxedo picture with the little tux shirt on the boys, and I dressed them. I stood down there all day putting them on their little button down and black coat, and bow ties, this and that, How many, I wear bow ties every day. I don't have one on today, but for the most part, I have on a bow tie. Man, them kids, they wanted me to say they look good or how they look, Doc. What you think about this, Doc? They really, they'll get to that place where they take pride because they want you to be impressed with them, and they see that they dressing similar to how you dress, and they want you to be proud of them. And you didn't tell them that. You didn't say, hey, you never once. No, they just want to do it.
Yeah.
Or they come to prom. First thing they do when they come to prom, they want to come show me, they outfit because they know Doc, they always have on a bow tie, so they want Doc to see them in the bow tie. How clean today, Doc? Yeah, you see so many things with these young people, that you making a positive impact in their life.
So do you have? I assume that these are also your expectations for your staff. Do you
Mhm.
have? Do you find that does your staff get it? Is this a battle that you have to? I don't know if I'd say fight, but is this something that you have difficulty instilling, or does the whole school, are they on board with it?
We working. We working. We getting there.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress, but they getting more consistent, and that's the main thing. They getting more consistent with what we do, and like I say, everything, even with them, I'm not asking you. I'm gonna be to work every day on time. I'm gonna be to work every day on time. So I'm
That's right.
asking you to be to work every day on time. You done saw I'm here every day on time. So I'm not asking you to do nothing that I did, far as lesson plans. Your lesson plan due every Wednesday by 4 o'clock. I got to give you feedback on that lesson plan within 24 hours. You're going to have that feedback from me within 24 hours. You will have that feedback from me within 24 hours. I'm asking you to get that lesson plan in on time. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna get you your feedback. I'm never gonna ask them to do something, and I'm not gonna do my part. And as we go down this road, they know. They'll know just like the students know. You do just what it is. You're not if you asking me to meet this deadline, you giving yourself a deadline to follow my deadline.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And with that level of professional respect start creeping in. And as you get there um, to the end of the year, it's easier to get on the same page and everybody buy into it, because a lot of times at school, you have some people rowing in one direction and you have other people rowing in a different direction. And students are looking for the slightest bit of inconsistency. But what if everybody consistent?
Mm. I
What if
hear
it's
you.
not just me?
Yeah. I hear you just from your life story, and especially like how you're living as the school administrator. You're setting the example for what Joseph Campbell in his book Hero with a Thousand Faces, he talked about these archetypes. And one of the archetypes of the father is its non-negotiable law. Like you can still be a loving father and you can still be a caring and giving father, but one of the things that make the father as far as the archetype is these are the expectations and there are no exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
The law is the law.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it's due by 4, I'm gonna show you how I live my example and giving you your
Yeah.
feedback by that certain amount of time. But I can coach you and I can help steer you in that direction, but the expectation is still the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
The law, and it's non-negotiable. The law
Yeah.
is non-negotiable. And
Mm-hmm.
I hear you get like living that. You're living the
Mm-hmm.
example. Like you said, some of these young men or young women might not see that at home, unfortunately, for this or that reason, but you are giving that to them every day. And
Mm-hmm.
it applies to you too. It's non-negotiable. Like every day
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna show up. And so
Mm-hmm.
these are the expectations. I'll help you get there. I'll help you. I'll give you the resources you need, but this is the law.
Yes. Yeah. Because we can't run a school without rules and regulations and expectations, and if we constantly breaking them,
Yeah.
but we asking students to follow them, make it make sense.
Yeah.
We can't be hypocritical in what it is that we asking students to do because they watching, and with that, we have to set our own expectations and meet those before we can hold others to expectations.
Hmm.
And then it trickle down to students because if there's one person not meeting those expectations, who suffer? Students.
Yeah.
And that applies across the board to
Yes.
every position of leadership.
Mhm.
Every position of leadership. If we're not holding ourselves accountable, how can we expect our kids to hold themselves to a higher standard than we're holding ourselves, or
Exactly.
employees, or whatever the relationship.
Yeah.
If we're not doing it ourselves, we can't expect other people. And you see that happen a lot. It happens in all aspects of life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where a lot of leadership fails.
It to me it does, and it really does. And well, like my superintendent say, you have to inspect what you expect. All right, and you have to. If it's the other way around, if I'm telling teachers to meet this deadline, and I'm never giving them their feedback, but I'm asking you to meet these deadlines, how that's going to turn out? Eventually, they're going to stop meeting them deadlines, and then when I get to that place to where I'm going to try to have that company, if they turn around, me as the principal, and say, well, you supposed to be giving me my feedback within 24 hours, and then I want to write this person up. I want to get all huffy and puffy because I'm the principal. How dare you tell me? No, no, no. I got to swallow my pride and say, you right. You right. I'm gonna do better.
That seems like it's impossible for some leaders to do. Well, for
It
some
is
negative
impossible.
leaders.
It really is. It is impossible for some, and I know it is. But I don't live by that code. Me, I'm just, hey, you right. My whole conversation gonna change. And you right. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm gonna do better.
Amen. Who are some leaders that you have gotten some of this stuff from, or who do you look up to?
Number one was Dr. Ulysses McBride. He passed away this past September. He was my mentor and friend and father figure, and he took me under his wing. He was his small world. He was the president at Reed State when my mother graduated with her associates LPN. I did not know him at the time, and later on, I joined the fraternity to where he was the 26th Grand Pole Mark, 26th International President of Kappa Alpha Psi. And when I crossed over and I joined his chapter, he saw something in me to where he made me the president of his chapter. I was just a year in. Wow. And I've been the president of my alumni chapter for the last 10 years. And he put his hands on my shoulder, and he basically, I asked him one time early on, why me? He said, you'll be a good leader, Bradley, because you care. You care about people. He saw that in me when I ain't see it. And he had his hand on me until he passed away. And he became like, we was in the airport. He had last few years, he had started getting early stages of dementia. And I saw it before anybody else. And I became his protector. And we was in the airport in Atlanta, flying back, because I used to travel with him. And he said, Bradley, I want you to go back to school and get your doctorate degree. And I said, Doc, I ain't trying to go back to school. I want you to go back to school. You need to go back to school and get your doctorate. I wasn't going to push back too hard on Doc. And eventually I went back. And every semester, grown man, family, everything, every semester I would send in my grade report. And he'd say, good job. And he held me accountable. He held me to a high standard. and he wasn't gonna let me lower the bar. He wasn't gonna let me lower the bar. So he most definitely would be number one, and number two would be Dr. Renee Culverhouse, who hired me at Huntington College as an assistant site coordinator. And Dr. Culverhouse saw some things in me when I was assistant site coordinator. And 2 years before she retired, she met with me and she said, what would you think about being the next director of operations? I said, oh no, Dr. Culverhouse, I will never want to see you. I love working for you, you know. She said, I'm going to retire, Vince, and I want to get you ready. These next 2 years, I'm going to give you hell. All right. You probably ain't going to like me, but if you fail, I fail. It's my job to get you ready for things that is going to come. And she took me through it. And, you know, so I've truly been blessed to have people who really care about me as a person, and they instilled all their years of knowledge and wisdom into just someone who didn't know nothing, but I knew that I wanted to be something, and didn't know the right way to be there to get there. And they just they had a special. I grew to have a special bond with both of them, and those two people uh, professionally have really helped me more so. And now I have a superintendent, um, Dr. Marlon Furrow, who his style is a little different, but he has nothing but good intentions for me, and he rides me hard, and you know, and I embrace it. I've always embraced feedback, good, bad, and different, because I'm trying to. The better I get, the better I can help others.
Mm-hmm.
It's never about me. You know, it's never about me. I want to be in a position where I can help other people accomplish their goals. And I want to be that vessel for them. I want to be that person that they can lean on and tell them, you know, that you can do it. And, you know, and the more knowledge and ability I have to do that, the better I can assist other people. So those three people are ones I would speak to.
What do you do when you're not pursuing leadership or education? How do you relax? What do you do for fun?
Fun for me is spending time with my two grandkids. Fun for me, every now and then I watch a football game. For the most part, like this weekend, I had my grandson Friday night. We had a slumber party. You know, put the air mattress up, and he think it's a trampoline. He's 3, and you know, and we had some popcorn and sandwiches and all that, and he played, watching his cartoons and movies. And yesterday, I had my granddaughter. She's 1, and she is a busybody and just run around the house throwing stuff on the floor and just. But she is a granddaddy's baby, so if she ain't doing that, she want to be up under me, you know. So I get the most enjoyment when I'm spending time with my grandkids nowadays, and every now and then I hang out with, you know, watch a game or something like that. But I'm pretty simple. I'm sitting down trying to write my next book, you know,
Yeah.
which you know, so it come out April the 1st. So
How many books do you have out?
this will be my second one. This will
Okay.
be my second one.
Okay.
And it comes out to April the 1st. Oh, I'm trying to do a book signing. Like I come back to Barnes and Nobles in Spanish Fort. They invited me back, so I must have did good.
Yeah.
I come back the end of this month, March 28th, and then I go to Gulfport. That Barnes and Nobles out there invited me out in May. So I just been promoting the book, and that's just it.
What's the second book called?
Lighting the path forward.
Okay.
It's lighting the path forward. It's against our odds. Is the first of the 3 book series,
Okay.
and lighting the path forward. It goes more into um, specific stories, specific people, specific what helped light the fire along the way. Community, my community of Stockton. And that book is dedicated to Stockton, Alabama, a community that I grew up in, and how that small community helped mold me, how people looked out for each other, how, like, speaking with my mother didn't have a car. People used to pick us up to give us a ride to church. People in the community we didn't feel like we didn't have a car, although we didn't, because we was in a community that looked out for each other. And those people would come and get us and take us when our mother was at work. You don't get that everywhere. And looking back at those things, or the creativity that was developed, at times where we didn't have lights, and but we didn't know it. We would play games. Like we played a Dong show, and my siblings, my cousin, and us, and we'd be in there having a time of our life, and but it taught us how to make the best of every situation. You don't know it at that time. Or I know my mother couldn't afford me GI Joe men, and I wanted them so bad. So we had this pear tree in the yard, and I broke sticks off that pear tree, and those pear tree became my GI Joe men. But to the outside world looking in, crazy little fella. But to me, they was as real as the real GI Joe men. Um, but even at such a young age, I'm making the best of my situation. I'm not crying and whining because I don't have GI Joe men. In my imagination, these sticks was as real as the action figure men that you may have bought from Walmart or Kmart. Kmart back then, Walmart. But and those are the things that I speak on in Lighting the Path Forward. So I go more in detail about specific stories.
Well, Dr. Bradley, I'm so grateful you took the time to come on our show. This is a
I'm sorry I
message.
was late.
Oh, no,
I was,
no, you're fine. No, no, no problem at all. I'm just grateful you came here. I'm grateful you took the time to share this. I think this is a message that definitely young people need to hear, but really everyone need to hear. Like you mentioned at the end of your book, you mentioned these struggles not as and overcoming them, not as a way to be like, oh, pity me, feel sorry for me, but as an example that you too, I'm talking about like the listeners and the people reading the book, that you too, no matter what is stacked against you, you can overcome and not just make it, but make something good. And I think that's a message that is sorely needed right now. There's a lot of negatives.
yeah.
There's a lot of despair out there in the world. And like I said, there's a lot of people that tell you what you can't do. But examples of people overcoming and showing how there is a path forward, I think is sorely, sorely needed these days. And
Yes.
I'm pretty grateful for you.
Hey, I'm thankful for you. Hey, you never know who you meet at Barnes and Noble.
That's right.
Well, yeah, that was the intent, though. I know the intent was to motivate those who may be in the middle of a storm, to encourage those who may be in a bad spot. But at the same time, for those who have overcome things and have made it in a good place, to reflect and to motivate them to tell their story to
Yeah.
somebody they're close to, because we all have overcome something, and but not everyone is willing to share,
Yeah.
and you may be standing right next to someone who may need that word,
Hmm.
may need that nudge, and so that's why I say I really wrote it with everyone in mind, no matter what spot that you're in.
Where can people go to buy your book or to anticipate the new one to learn more about you? Where can people go?
Well, I'm on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Vinson Bradley Publishing, and I have my website, vinsonbradley.com. I am Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Books a Million, all the online book platforms you can find Against All Odds, and you will be able to find start at April 1st, lighting the path forward. So it'll be in Barnes and Nobles and Amazon and all, and it is launching April 1st. I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
congratulations. That's really cool.
We're going to put links to all those places in the description of this video and description of this podcast. And just encourage people to get to know you, get to know your stuff, and to dig deep, to let go of the excuses and to find the path forward.
Yes, sir. All right.
It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet y'all. Thank
All right.
you.
Take care.
All right.